Evil After One guys, and today we got some enhancement to talk about, so let's just dive right into it. First off, Rena. Now this was a unit I was looking very much forward to, and Gumi did not disappoint us, which was actually nice for a change. Okay, most of the time Gumi has been doing a great job with a lot of support units, so I was expecting she was going to be good, and I was also expecting her to become a great healer. That was kind of what I was hoping for, and that's exactly what has happened. So let's take a look what it is exactly they are done to her, because they are giving her a lot of things that's very important. First off, the dual cast got changed, so everything in her kit can be dual casted. This is a big change. Means she can do like Myra, for example, revive the entire team in case all revive in a single turn if you need to. Great stuff. She also got status immunity across the board. Now to increase resistance 100% for 5 turns, including stop. Very good stuff. And this one also cures and removes stops as well. Great combo. Makes it really good. Hello, girl. Well, I guess we're gonna get a little visit here. Yes, we are. She also got a increased spirit 150% for 5 turns to all. Yes, come on here. So we're getting a buff there. She's going to be here on our side in a moment. With 150% for 5 turns. With a magic damage mitigation with 35% for 5 turns. That is great. Yeah, she's going to be laying here besides that. There we go. There, I think we are in control. She's laying over here, being a good little kitty. So that's great. She has magic damage mitigation now up to 35%. Beautiful. She also gets some significant boost in spirit and HP when she equips with a fist weapon. Really good stuff. So I would highly recommend getting her TM and equip her with a fist weapon. That's a lot of great stats that you're getting there. It would be sad to lose those. And she also get dual wield in her kit, which is great because she is a dual wield type. We also have her, if I recall correctly, that's her type. Oh boy, the cats are running everywhere. So we have the time travel that acquires a TM and super TM R, of course, and there also got some nice little boost there. Limber's fill rate with 100% we got there, MP recovery with 10%, and of course the Limber's got a big upgrade. That one we do need to talk about. And then we got the In Shelter that now casts a damage mitigation with 30% for 5 turns and increased resistance to all the breaks for 100%. And also charm resistance for 5 turns to the entire team for 5 turns. So, great stuff. Now she also has charm resistance. Now, she doesn't cure charm, but she can cast charm resistance, which is great. For the most part, you just need charm resistance. It's very rare you need to cure it. So, great stuff. And then, of course, this one, the Fixed Cloud. This one I did not expect. Decrease now light resistance with 120% for 3 turns to all enemies. Does a nice little damage on 45 times with a spirit scaling. Great stuff. Light elemental attack. Still inflicts stop, but it now adds light elemental to physical attacks for 3 turns to all allies. So suddenly, she's also a unit that can be worth taking into dark vision events. So I would definitely have her in the back of my hand when it comes to doing light attacks with certain enemies. So, really good. And then a light cross. I was not keen on getting this one enhanced, but when we see damage modifiers with this kind of 16 times modifier and she can dual cast this, that's 120. That's not bad for a unit like this. And it also got a little cheaper to utilize. Cool, cool. So the last thing she was kind of like lacking was any way to buff up the team's stats, and that's exactly what she can do here with her cooldown. That casts an auto revive for now 4 turns to all allies and boost defense and spirit with 200% for 4 turns, and that cannot be dispelled. That's awesome. Now, you might be saying, yeah, but she doesn't boost up attack and magic. Most of the time, damage healers can boost themselves up, and many times more powerful than what any buffers can generally do, so it's great stuff. She even get a magic damage mitigation with 50% for 2 turns. Also very good, so yeah, she's just gonna synergize very well with some magic cover tanks now as well. And then the final one, we are getting some spirit increase up to 100% when dual wielding, and a bit more 80%, and of course spirit wise and some more basic stats. Incredible stuff. So what does that exactly mean all together? Well, what you suddenly have here is a unit that can match other healers. Now, you might be also pointing out saying, well, she doesn't have a single target auto revive. Who cares about that when her limit burst got upgraded to this monstrosity? It still cures any breaks that happens, but now it will buff with 200% that cannot be dispelled for 3 turns. The HP and MP recovery is still going to be the same, and that is still insanely powerful, but now we have an auto revive for 3 turns with 100% HP recovery. That is an amazing combo. Honestly, this limit burst alone is what makes her so good. So if you want to know how much she can actually heal, a build I put on my a channel, if you haven't seen it, I have about 2,700 in Spirit right now. And when she's buffing herself up, she's hitting about 3,300 in Spirit. That means she's regenerating HP with 15,000 for 3 turns. 15,000, not split over 3 turns, no, 50,000 per round. And even her MP recovery was anything between 400 to 500 MP. Yes! Oh... This is incredible. She's basically got everything you want from a healer, which is great. And I have gotten a few questions of people saying, okay, what does that exactly mean for her? Does she suddenly become the best healer in the game? For me personally, it is slightly the best. I would say she is the best unit, but it's only a slight margin. And it's honestly because of that limit burst down here. Because this limit burst alone makes her so slot efficient. If you don't need elemental resistance, most of the time your magic cover can have that. You can have her be in as your healer and as your buffer easily, which is incredible. It is surprisingly powerful. Of course, if you're fighting an enemy that does a lot of dispelling, it can be a little tricky to do this. You might need someone else who can maybe support heal when you're applying the buff of status immunities, because the status immunities does not heal or anything like that. But besides that, that's incredible. I've been playing around with her for a little while now, and you could definitely feel it. She has a great synergy with, especially Sylvie, because Sylvie comes in with some element of resistance, has some support healing, but also has the physical damage mitigation. But I can already think about a few other teams like Paladin Sizzle and Awakened Warrior of Light together with this, with Rena. That's a huge combo cover that comes in there. Overall, I do think she is slightly the best, but it's again that combo between a healer and a buffer that makes her just that slightly better than the rest. But she's not breaking the meta, but she has pushed it a little bit on the top. Rena is definitely, in my opinion, worth enhancing if you're lacking a healer and a buffer. She is all into one now. And the next unit we're going to be looking at is, of course, Elly, a unit I was getting a little hyped for because of the preview of the enhancement she was going to get. It looks like they were pushing her in the direction of a Cersei kind of unit. Oh, please, bring me more mages like this. But the most important thing, again, is that I was kind of like keeping my hype down because, again, damage dealers is something they have been holding very much behind. So the question is, what kind of damage can you expect from this unit? Well, her damage is decently. We're talking about 22 billion, which is not too bad. Regular TMs, not Super TMR build. Super TMR build, of course, you can get some more power out of her. But regular builds, for most people, that's not too bad. There's still a bit of a gap, and always keep in mind, a lot of our new units we get into global side are just getting so pushed ahead, damage-wise, way overtuned than what we really need. And of course, Gumi doesn't want to do that to a lot of these units that are just getting enhanced. They don't want to give them any close to that kind of power, but I would say mages is one area where there could be room for it, because we don't have that many powerful mages, and especially kind of like Elly. But even so, she's hitting 22 billion, I would still use her for Dark Vision, and it is especially Dark Vision events I'm looking at, because that's where we have a lot of issue using mages, where we're trying to hit the cap, and she can actually be a bit of a savior for you to help there, especially if you're planning on using her as a finisher. Now, one of the biggest issues that always been with Elly is that she has a 5x cast ability. How many other mages has that? None really. It's only Elly, and that means you can't really utilize her power fully without another Elly to get that full power out of it. But lucky enough, her finishing capabilities are not too bad. They're actually pretty high, thanks to these setups. And basically goes down to be a 2-turn setup unit, which is really great for a lot of Dark Vision missions, where you can like set up for the first turn, and next turn you just burst down. Generally, that's a really good strategy to go for. So she's getting quite a few things here. So she's getting, of course, some passive increases to defense magic spirit, up to 60%. Fine enough. And she also gets some higher machine killers up to 100%. Great and all. But one of the things I really do like is that she's getting some higher elemental resistance up to 50%, because that synergizes extremely well with her Super TMR. If you do not recall, her Super TMR gives 60% elemental resistance for fire, water, wind, and earth. So that means if you put that onto her, you have 110% elemental resistance for 4 elements. Just naturally. Makes a lot of the Dark Vision missions a lot more easy to go in when it comes to gearing up for that elemental resistance. Great stuff. But of course, she's getting some magic and MP and defense and spirit. Elemental resistance. Yeah, I'm a little happy about her. She's also going to get a little boost here to her limit burst damage, passive-wise up to 100%, because again, her limit burst becomes actually significantly powerful now you can utilize. But best of all, she's getting true double hand with 150%, and even... Oh, sorry, yeah, true double hand and true dual wield with 150% as well. Great stuff, means you're going to hit her cap a little more easier than originally, and you can build her one way or the other. So her TM doesn't hold her too much back, but sadly she didn't get any natural dual wield in her kit, so you do have to give her some sort of dual wield TM if you want to build in that direction. But it's not the worst thing. It's not the worst. We have a few TMs that's decently enough. And then all her moves got changed, all her elemental moves, the most powerful ones, got changed to Chaos Wave Awakening, and all of them can add a element of the element they're attacking with. And that synergizes so well with her finishing capability, so that is great. The power is also decent. And then down below, we got, of course, the cooldown abilities, and very simple stuff to set up with. You use the Paradigm Shift, where you're getting a boost of magic of 250% for 5 turns, so that cannot be dispelled. Great. And you also refresh 600 MP split over 5 turns of the caster. I can already tell you this much. She is going to keep her MP up quite well. Love it. And then we also have Enable Skill for 3 turns, where we get the 5 times cast. But for the 2 turns setup for the finish, you don't really use the 5 times cast that much. And we're also decreasing the Fire, Water, and Earth Elemental with 100% for 5 turns to all enemies. So very nice. Good elemental debuff and power setup. And then of course we have the move that build up her limb burst and power as well. It does come in with the magical physical damage move. So again, whatever element you're putting on, it will turn into that element, or what element you cast onto her become that element. It also builds up her limb burst instantly with 32, and of course increase the limb burst damage with 150%. So that basically means, thanks to the upgrade to a limb burst with 40 times multiplier, it's hitting around 190 times multiplier as a finishing move, which is really good. So you of course need to chain it up, and you have that kind of power finishing, which is great. Sadly, she doesn't have many other killers or anything like that, but because of her limit burst being that kind of finisher type, you can use physical killers without any problem there to utilize it, which is great stuff. There was also small changes, 250% buff there as well with her limit burst, so she can keep that up and recovers 300 MP as well. Some really good stuff she's getting across the board. So overall, I'm honestly very happy with how Elly turned out. It is definitely a unit I'm going to be using for Dark Visions. I wouldn't say she is a must-have, like you have to go for her, because there are going to be Ace and Rim eventually coming down the line that works very similar like this, where they have this magical physical kind of things, and they are going to come in with a lot more power. Yeah, they are going to come in a lot more power. But if you already got Elly and you're still a bit lacking until the Dark Vision event, yeah, I could enhance her. I personally enhance her because I really like the character. I've always wanted to see her shine just one more time, and she's getting her chance to shine one more time. But I will also say, if Ace and Rem is coming out, she might get into the back seat later on. But at the same time, I would, if I needed just extra boost of power, I will then take her in and still use her as a finisher. That is still great power she comes with. Now the biggest issue is when you're going to gear her up, because we don't have limit burst gear that increases magic. That's kind of like a little trickier at the moment. But if I recall right, I have seen some gear on the JP side that works like that, if I remember correctly, or I'm mixing something up. Very sorry if that is. But it's not going to be the biggest deal breaker. Her base limb burst damage and boosting is going to be more than enough, and then you just stack up killers. And she is going to be just fine. Absolutely a wonderful little lady we got here. So the last 2 units we need to talk about is, of course, Adam Jensen and 2B. They are the typical damage dealers that has their niche moments. And Adam Jensen is definitely the more niche of the two. Adam Jensen's never had really a chance to shine. I can barely remember him being used by anyone else because, again, it was such a weird mixture of everything. So it was a bit of a major rehaul he was going to get, and one hell of a rehaul he's getting. He has some usage now, and I'm just questioning, where was this person who was revamping this unit when they didn't revamp the VP units? Jesus, there's put a lot of work in these 4 units here, and sadly that was not put on the Valkyrie profile. Yeah! Frustrating to look at this here and go, oh my god, you put so much effort into this. Why didn't you do in the previous one? Sorry. Anyway, he does have his niece usage. One of the things was the Stealth Enhancer that casts evasion with 3 physical attacks for himself for 3 turns. 3 physical attacks he will evade. And then he'll cast an AoE evasion where the entire team will be able to evade 2 physical attacks. Pretty nice, can be useful for certain fights, especially if you go for a magic attack and the enemy has some physical attacks you want to evade, which can be very helpful. Not too bad. It's a little clunky on a damage dealer. I do prefer something like on Riku, for example, who can break and cast AoE evasion. Granted, it's only 1, but generally for the most part that is more than enough. When you start to need more than 1 evasion, you might sometimes be better at going for a physical cover for those particular fights, but again, it's very different from fight to fight, but it's fun. But it's a little clunky here. It would have been nice to see it alongside with a chaining move or something like that, so you could keep that up all the time you could keep chaining. But whatever, it's still very useful for certain circumstances. You also get a nice boost to his base stats, so attack, defense, and spirit HP with 50%. We even get true dual wield to 60%. Good stuff. And like we were talking about last time, the 2 elements he's going to be focusing around is fire and lightning, and both of those things is going to be something he can add to himself and decrease those elements with 100%. Damage is fine, nothing crazy. Lightning elemental debuff with 100% for 5 turns. And he's also going to be buffing up with 200% for 5 turns and add the Lightning Elemental, a chance with the SR family. Big families to play around with. His Nano Blade also becomes SR, with some decent damage to max out if you want to. And again, Fire and Lightning can be played around with there. His TM passive also getting some nice upgrade. His Limb Burst damage goes from 100 to 200% increase. Sadly, he didn't become the way I wanted. I was kind of crossing my fingers that his Limb Burst would be just slightly more powerful, and it didn't become as powerful as one. Even though this is 200%, he only has a 15 times damage modifier down there. That does ignore defense, but that's not a lot. It was not the kind of power I was kind of hoping for. But again, I was not expecting crazy, but kind of like that could be his main source. It could be fun. Could have been fun. And that's also upgrades his Limit Burst. Then we have the fire version of the lightning one we were talking about. That decreases fire with 100%, 5 physical damage of 45 times, and add fire element to it, chains with the SR family. Now the big change here is for the tornado move that becomes an AR frame. And it comes in with a very nice damage modifier, and it can be used already on turn 1, which is great. So for many times when it comes to Dark Visions, you want to try to hit the chaining cap up to 100, and that can sometimes be tricky, but AR frames are some of the easiest ones to utilize with. But most AR chainers do not have that much power behind them. Carden is kind of like one of the exceptions. He does have, 99 damage modifiers, as I recall, but it only procs off once. But then now, Jensen could actually be a solution here for you. That's what kind of like with the niche moments I was talking about that he could be utilized for. And it's non-elemental, so you can give it whatever elemental you want, and then you just need someone else who can continue chaining up, and then boom, you're hitting a chain cap while you're doing some good damage. So that is where I do see some great usage for him. And we have remote hacking also getting some upgrades. We are getting a high machine kill up to 150% for 3 turns. We increase attack by 250% for 999 turns and cannot be dispelled. Nice stuff right there, so you don't have to worry about reapplying that anytime soon. He also builds up a Limb Burst instantly, and it chains with the SR family, but sadly it doesn't increase the Limb Burst damage. Couldn't it increase 150% like Elly? Would have been good, but sadly nori. We also get a passive focus enhancement. The tactical combination upgrade comes in. That is the dual cast he's getting here. I don't know if you can see if that shows. No, it doesn't show, but it allows him to dual cast a huge range of his abilities, which is great. It helps when a unit like this gets a dual cast. It opens up so much more possibilities for a unit like this. We're getting some basic stats increases from 50 to 80 in attack. MP still 50. We get some MP per turn, and some. And then of course we get a very important cap increase of dual wielding with 6 times. Helps a lot getting this to a unit, and some damage from modifiers. No, they seem to be exactly the same as before. And here you're gonna see his upgrade. As I said, 15 times, ignore defense. Not the crazy. It decreases light resistance by 100%. I kind of wish it also decreased fire with 100%. Maybe even to push it up to 120 would have been nice, just to make it a little more desirable. I would like to have sacrificed a 4-turn to a 3-turn for good 120%. So you just feel like you're getting a little bit more out using the Limb Burst, because I'm not too crazy with it. But again, if this move up here could have increased the Limb Burst damage to 150%, alright, then we have some power we can utilize there. But that's their decision. Overall, I do see some usage for him, but it's mostly for the AR frames, with that 50 times multiplier, and of course the AoE evasion is the biggest deal, and chains with the SR family. He's not in a bad position with 24 billion damage in the regular TMs, but oh well, he is still fine. He's not one of those units I would recommend people enhancing, because most likely you already got some units that's far more powerful, but if you're liking something in the Dark Vision for the AR frames chaining, I think this is going to be the man for you. Oh, yeah, oh, you should a good boy. Yeah, you should a good boy. Yeah, just stay there. So he is with us as we're talking about 2B. Alright, 2B is a unit many people have been looking very much forward to. Bit of a waifu for many people, but also been a really good unit for a good while, as I recall back. But she's always been a solid breaker. Generally a good breaker, still with high break numbers with 74%, 70% breaks, so she still hold up. But sadly, as a damage dealer, you will fall eventually out of favor. So sadly, finding a number 1 on your friend list has always been quite minimal. So of course, with her enhancements, we were hoping for some decent enhancements, some decent power, and all those kind of things. Now, power calculation right now I don't have, but I would guess her power is anywhere between 22 to 24 billion max with regular TMs. I do not expect her to hit anything higher when we're looking at some of the 2 other enhancements we have, so I'm expecting that is what they have been hitting her as well. So her enhancements has been a bit of a mixed reaction from people, and I do understand why. We'll get into that with some of the weaknesses happened. So of course they kind of like focus around giving her some more breaking capabilities, that she becomes a main breaker, but also trying to give her some power. So we are going to be able to decrease attack and magic with 70% for 2 turns. That also gives some evasion. She has a counter with 50% with physical attack for 2 turns. And able to avoid attack 2. Always nice, she has some on-demand break for attack and magic with 70%. That's very important to have at least that. Defensive Spirit is not the most important thing, because there's quite a few bosses you're fighting that are defense and spirit immunity. But most of the time you can break their attack or magic for that matter to reduce damage. We're also getting some nice boost in stats. Spirit, HP, and defense up to 30%. And we're also getting some Confused, Petrify with 100%. And we also got Ignore fatal damage up to 100% when HP is above 10% max one time. Nice, giving her some survivability when enemies are starting bursting us down. Great to have a little fatal resistance when it's your breaker. Is always good to have. And her TM passive, of course, getting some nice upgrades as well. We are hitting a... Let me see here, what are we getting? We're getting some defense plus 50%. True Do Will seems to be 100 up there. And we are getting a 100% Limb Burst damage, and the Limb Burst is also getting a upgrade. We'll talk about that one as well. We are increasing attack, spirit, MP up to 70% now, and HP plus 30%. We also have 100% machine killers. We are getting some 100% true dual wield, and most importantly, we're getting a 6 times chain cap when dual wielding, which is a big deal. This is a big boost in power she's getting for this particular one. Then, of course, her breaking moves, 80% break for 3 turns to all enemies, and she's also going to be able to boost her attack and defense with 250% for 6 turns. That cannot be dispelled. Nice, I love that. And she gives 10 Limb Burst crystals to herself, and then we enable some abilities unlocked for 6 turns as well. Her other kind of like emergency break move you can utilize is the gravitational cannon move, chaining move here, lightning damage of 40 times to one enemy. Breaks attack, defense, magic, spirit 75% to a single target. Always keep in mind she's much more single target focused with some of her abilities. Mostly, this one has her AoE break, and then her Limb Burst has AoE break. So always have that back in mind when you're using her. Increase Limb Burst gauge with 5, and we're unlocking some extra speed, and our slaughter, a gravitational cannon chain, of course. So that's kind of just what she is getting. We're seeing some upgraded damage modifiers for some of these down here. Let's see if we can go through it. True Voltage becomes a 45 times multiplier. Decrease light resistance by 100% for 5 turns. And also cast a kind of like a poison effect with 30 times multiplier per turn for 5 turns to all enemies. We also has now an SR framing move, which is good. Physical damage of 30 times to all enemies, and add lightning elemental to her own physical attacks. We also got a physical damage combo to all enemies. Yeah, that also increases damage modifier. That is generally the move you use to build up a Limburst gauge. Kind of like what you generally do is that you break her, and then you spam this one here to get the Limburst up, then you fight a Limburst, then afterwards you use True Charge Blade, kind of like going through that like the good old times you did before. And we also have the Void Attack that becomes an AM chain with 30 times multiplier, which is great, all that, but sadly none of these particular moves does any breaking. So if you're using it as your main breaker, you kind of have to go away from these particular moves, which is a bit sad. And especially also here where this lightning elemental debuff is coming for this move, and then to get an elemental add-on you have to use another move. And that is where there comes a one little problem with 2B. She didn't get any dual casts, which does hurt her. Sadly a bit. It's a little weird adding Jensen's getting it, but 2B didn't get it. But it's something that can be added later down the line with latent abilities. If that is ever going to be happening, who knows? That could be, it could never be. We'll see. We have, of course, your Slaughter Dance that has lightning physical damage of 36 times, but it breaks attack and magic for 75 times. Not 75%, with 3 turns to 1 enemy as well. Chains with a gravitational cannon. And again, there's not many people you chain with a gravitational cannon. Sadly not. So yeah, that is kind of like one of her biggest minuses, not getting a dual cast. So the upgrade to Limburst is not bad. Her physical damage is getting a nice damage modifier up to 20 times, and especially when you think about that 100 times Limburst increase she's getting in there, and she has 6 times cap. She does come in with quite a bit of power now in her Limburst and ignores defense for 50%, which is great. To my surprise, it's still keeping at 74% break for 3 turns. Now 74% break is still good. It's still good. But sadly, the physical damage mitigation didn't get a buff either. I was kind of like, couldn't it become AoE or something? Just anything, just to make it feel a little bit more. But it's getting a nice damage modifier. That's really good. It gives her some power. And that's kind of like how you want to use her. I've been playing a little bit around with her, and I do like using her kind of like as a breaker finisher type with Limburst. That's kind of like how I prefer using her. But the problem is using a unit that's not competing with other top-end damage dealers is that she's going to be falling out of the meta extremely fast. Yeah, continue licking your balls. That is kind of like her biggest issue. She's going to be staying in the meta for a little while. I was kind of expecting her to become kind of like the breaker you could maybe go on for this particular banner, especially with a free ticket. But I'm not too much of a fan of her, if you're going to be honest, as a main breaker. Because again, when you think about some of the other units you have Vanille, you have Riku, some are higher end breakers, and even you have some like Kryla, for example, are still freakishly good because they have a lot of more utility for the team. Working in different ways for your team can be a huge benefit. But here, yeah, you do some extra damage you use as a finish, but eventually that's not going to be staying in the meta for too long, and you're going to be looking elsewhere, and then you kind of wish you instead have Riku or Vanille or any other breakers comes down the line. She has the power. She is definitely going to be working. I enhanced her, played around with it with her, and she's doing just fine damage. But she is a unit that will eventually fall out of favor. I liked her because she has a lot of great memories when it comes from me and FFBE Exvius. I always liked the unit, and I could take her out for a few times just having some fun with her from time to time. Not a bad unit, but I would generally say she's not a unit that is that much worth enhancing unless you're really desperate for some breakers. She has the break numbers. Sorry, and Segwa is very happy for me. Oh, thank you for licking me after you licked your balls, and then you're licking my hand. Wonderful. So, for me, when I'm looking at these 4 enhancements, in full honesty, Rena is by all means worth it when it comes to enhancements. If you're lacking a healer, a healer and a buffer, absolutely worth it. But keep in mind, we don't know if any of the other 8 units are going to get enhancements, so you can still wait out to use your ticket. But if you're interested in Rena, keep in mind you can get a free ticket where you can pick one of the units, and you can get her Prism by trading in with exchange in there as well for some of the trust coins you've been getting. Yeah, the coins there you get for exchanging units. I completely forgot what it was called. But you can get her quite easily in that way, and you don't need her super TMR. Just her team is more than enough. She is really good. I've been having so much fun using her. Really a unit that's worth it. But again, you can just save if you want to. Elly, again, as I mentioned before, Dark Vision is where I see her shine the most if you're lacking some magic damage deal, especially as a magic damage finisher. She comes in with surprisingly good amount of damage, and I like her quite a bit as the Cersei. And a Jensen, mostly for the AR, the AoE evasion, you would most likely use him for. And 2B, if you're desperately needing a stronger breaker. But I'll already say, if you already got a unit like Kryler from last time, there's not much of an upgrade going for it. Or if you have something like Riku or Vanille, there's nothing really hugely different between these units. That's my takes on these 4 units at the moment, and I will say generally I am satisfied with these enhancements. Generally I'm satisfied, mostly 2B. I wish she got a little bit more. The dual casting would have been a big help, but we can cross fingers that they make this crazy collab comes again down the line where we're going to see some latent abilities on these units that can give that what they're lacking. That could be nice. But yeah, overall I am still pleased with what they have done. I still wish they did that on VP banner. Can we send a ticket in and demand a reset of the enhancements of the VP units? God, that would be nice. Or Gumi just giving up and trying to fix them. And like, nope, we can't fix them. They are dark shite. They cannot be saved. Who knows, right, Sigurd? We don't know. Anyway, I hope this was a little helpful for you, and you want to hear my opinion on these particular units. And guys, do remember to please like and subscribe for the channel, so we can laugh together in the darkness.